everybody. Good afternoon to you all. So, welcome to our teachers training department. Today is a National Education Day. We are commemorating the birthday of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Welcome to you all to our one day webinar on educational philosophy of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. So today we are just organizing this kind of webinar, and this is organized by our teachers training department, Panchkura Mali College, and it's a great proud privilege to you all that we have amongst us our honorable principal sir, Dr. Nandan Bhattacharya, and we have with us Dr. Nirmal Lodas, our IQAC sir. We have with us Dr. Tuhin Kumar Kaur, convener of Academic Council, Panchkura Bonamali College. We have amongst us Dr. Nirmal Kumar Mohapatra, and our controller of examinations. We have with us also Dr. Badsha Ghosh, our head of the department of our physical education and sports science department. We have also with us Dr. Shukti Ranjan Mishra, professor of physical education and sports science department, Panchkura Bonamali College. And we have our chief guest. We have with us Dr. Shubhati Pal, assistant professor of English, Bankura University. And we have also with us Dr. Rohan Hassan, assistant professor of English, Alia University, Kolkata, West Bengal. So, and we have also with us our beloved students and also our dignitaries, distinguished guests, and also our beloved colleagues. So, welcome to you all. So, with Sanskrit mantra and with our prior permission from our principals and also from our IQC sir, let us inaugurate our program with Sanskrit chants. Om Narayanam Namaskrityam Naran Choiva Narottamam Deving Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayo Mudirayet Munkam Karoti Vachalam Pungung Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamahang Bande Paramananda Madhavam Srimad Bhagavad Gita Sarvopurnishado Gabo Dugdha Gopalanandanaham Parthavatsa Sudiri Bhukta Dugdham Gita Mritang Mahat Ramardanam Deva Vandriyagat Gurum Sri Bhagavan Vacho Karmane Vadika Raste Ma Phaleshu Kadachano Ma Karma Phalo Hetur Bhuma Te Sangasta Karmani Apuriya Mana Machala Pratishtam Samudra Mapo Pravishanti Yatapat Tatapat Kamayang Pravishanti Sarve Sasanti Maknoti Nakamo Kami Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहं परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय सम्भवामि युगे युगे ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहं मम वर्तान् वर्तन्ते मनुष्य पार्थ सर्वशः उद्धरेत् आत्मनो आत्मानं आत्मानं अवसादयेत् सर्वधर्मान् परित्याज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचहम् हरि ओम तत्सत् हरि ओम तत्सत् हरि ओम तत्सत् our student Moitri Pal to inaugurate to sing the inaugural song. So Moitri, please start the song. Moitri, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
ধান পেড়া আমাদের বন্ধরা তাহা মানে সকল দেশেরা ও সব নিয়ে তৈরি সেজে স্মৃতি দিয়ে ঘেরা খুঁজে পাই না তুমি ও সে সকল দেশের রানী সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি রে জয় চন্দ্র তারা কোথায় উজ্জ্বল এমন তারা কোথায় এমন খেলে কোন কালো মেঘে তারা পাখির ডাকে পাখি জেগে এমন কথা যে সয়ে তৈরি সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি পুষ্পে পুষ্পে ভরা কুঞ্জে গাহে গুণ অলি যে পুঁধে তারা ফুলের পিয়ে পড়ে ফুলের মধু খেয়ে এমন দেশটি কোথাও খুঁজে পাবে না গো তুমি ও সে সকল দেশে যে ভূমি সে আমার জন্মভূমি সে আমার জন্মভূমি ভাইয়ের মায়ের স্নেহ কই গেলে পাবে কেহ ও মা তোমার চরণ দুটি বক্ষে আমার ধরি আর সেতে জন্ম সেতে মরি কোন দেশটি খুঁজে পাবে না গো তুমি ও সে সকল দেশের রানী সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি থ্যাংক ইউ
Thank you, Moitri, for your beautiful opening song. And today we are commemorating the birthday of Abul Kalam Azad. And Abul Kalam Azad was an Indian scholar and an Islamic theologian and independence activist, and as a senior leader of the Indian National Congress during the Indian independence movement. So he is commonly remembered as Maulana Azad, and he is the first education minister of our India. So today it's a great day, it's a kind of auspicious day for all of us, and we are commemorating the birthday of Abul Kalam Azad. Now I'm inviting our honorable IQC sir, Dr. Nirmal Das, to deliver the speech. Sir,
thank you.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
On behalf of Mashpura Bonamali College, IQAC, and also the department, teachers training department, I welcome all the participants, dignitaries, and also guest uh, Dr. Shubhadeep Pal, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Makuda University, Dr. Rohan Hassan, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Alia University, and the members, faculty members of Paspura Mandamadi College, like Dr. Tuhin Kumar Kaur, Dr. Nirmal Mohapatra, Dr. Vatsa Ghosh, Dr. Shakti Ranjan Mishra, those, and also the member of faculty members of uh, teachers training department. I welcome you all and all the participants. On behalf of Paspura Mandamadi College, Department of Teachers Training Department, we are observing the National Education Day 2020. Uh, as we all know, uh, since 2008, November 11, this day is celebrated as the Education Day to commemorate the birth anniversary of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Azad was independent India's first education minister, and he was a freedom fighter, served India in the capacity of the Minister of Education from 1947 to 1958. 1958. So he strongly advocate the education for women and free compulsory primary education for children up to the age of 14. Some of the important boards commissions set up by Maulana Abul Kalam Azad during his tenure. The first one is the University Grant Commission. The second one, Indian Council for Technical Education, Kharagpur IIT, University Education Commission, the Secondary Education Commission, and Maulana Abul Kalam Azad also responsible for setting up the Indian Council for Cultural Relations (ICCR), Sahitya Academy, Lalit Kala Academy, Sangeet Natak Academy, the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, that is CSIR. So many institutes. During his tenure, he established so many, directly or indirectly, he was involved to establish this institute for academic development. So, on the birth anniversary of uh, Abul Kalam Azad on 11th November 2008, the government of India is celebrating this day as a National Education Day. So we are observing this day as National Education Day, and on this eve, the Teachers Training Department today they organized a webinar, educational philosophy of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and that will also the knowledgeable and item knowledgeable knowledge based analysis will delivered by Dr. Subodhi Pal and Dr. Rohan Hassan, the eminent guest of honor, and also our members, Dr. Tuhin Kaur, Dr. Nirmal Mohapatra, Dr. Vatsa Ghosh, Dr. Shakti Ranjan Mishra. They will deliver different aspects on the importance of this day, this National Education Day, and I am thankful to the faculty members of the Teachers Training Department, and also the guest of honor, Dr. Pal and Dr. Hassan. Thank you, Sivasis. You please continue the program, and we expect the program will get success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nimallo sir, for your enlightening speech and also a kind of inspirable lecture. So thank you. Your words always boosted us, and you are always with us in our and with our department. So and congratulations for your hearty cooperation. I always love you for your excellent speech. So thank you, sir. And now I'm inviting Dr. Tuhin Kumar Kaur. I think Tuhin sir, Dr. Tuhin Kumar sir is present. Whether Dr. Tuhin Kumar Kaur is present now? I think he's not still available. Okay, so I'm inviting Dr. Nirmal Kumar Mohapatra sir. Dr. Nirmal Kumar Mohapatra sir, our Honorable Controller of Examinations, Panchkura Bonamali College. So I'm inviting Dr. Nirmal Kumar Mohapatra sir to deliver his valuable speech. Sir, please.
Hello, I am audible.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hello.
Audible, audible, audible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Uh, thank you, all of you, our eminent speakers and organizers from department, B.Ed department, and our colleagues of different departments and from different positions. Today is the National Education Day. We are going to remember Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Actually, central government had on 11th September 2008 declared the day to be National Education Day, and the first celebration was inaugurated by then President of India Pratibha Patil at Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi. The Vice President of India Venkaiah Naidu paid his tributes to the freedom fighter and nationalist, writing, "He will be always remembered for his enduring contributions in the field of education and for relentlessly striving for national unity." Actually, Azad was born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia in 1888, but relocated to Calcutta in order to provide him a better education. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was a brilliant debater, as indicated in his name Abul Kalam, which literally means Lord of Dialogues. He was the first Minister of Education during 1947 to 1952 and Minister of Education, Natural Resources and Scientific Research during 1952 to 1958. He expired on February 2020, 1958, February 22, sorry, and was honored with the Bharat Ratna posthumously in 1992. According to Pandit Nehru, Maulana Azad had a mind like a razor, which cut through a fog of ideas. Maulana Azad contributed his ideas on religion, state and civil society of India. That is why Nehru referred Maulana Azad as Miri Karwan. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, I consider Maulana a person of caliber of Plato, Aristotle and Pythagoras. In the conventional address at Aligarh Muslim University in February 1949, Maulana Azad justified that India is a secular state. I think you will agree that the educational setup for a secular and democratic state must be secular. It should provide for all citizens of the state the same type of education without any distinction. It should have its own intellectual flavor and its own national character. It should have as its aim the idea of human progress and prosperity. The Indian Union has set before itself such a scheme of common education for all without distinction of or discrimination in favor of any community or group. If a country is to be corruption free and become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel three key societal members who can make a difference. They are the father, the mother, and the teacher. With this view, he suggested all parents, let us sacrifice our today to that our children can have a better tomorrow. India at the time of independence differences because of caste, creed, and gender. Education was mostly restricted to upper caste males, although social reformers across the country were calling for equality. Abul Kalam was sensitive to the needs of the destitute and sought to do every away with the inequalities prevalent at that time. It was Abul Kalam who first raised the issue of national system of education, which was the foundation of the national policy of education 1986 that called for equality and quality of education to all students irrespective of caste, creed, location or gender. It was his early efforts that helped shape an all-inclusive policy of education, the benefits of which being reaped today. Uh, with these few words, I conclude my talk. Our eminent speakers will elaborately discuss about this days and about Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Thank you all. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirmal sir, for your excellent speech, and always you are cooperating with us, and you have discussed about so many areas and the excellency of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Thank you all for your illuminating speech and also for your valuable speech. Thank you, sir. And now it is time for our Badsha sir. Badsha sir, are you present? Badsha sir. Twin sir, whether Badsha sir is present now? Hello.
No, sir. Hello?
Not.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
or our Dr. Shakti Ranjan sir. Shakti Ranjan sir.
No, sir. I can found his name in the list of the name list.
Okay, I think that our honorable our guest is our Subhadeep sir is ready now, so we can start with our Subhadeep sir. Okay. So today it's a great day for all of us because we are particularly commemorating our National Education Day for the birthday of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. So now I am particularly inviting our chief guest and our guest Dr. Subhadeep Paul, and Dr. Subhadeep Paul is the assistant professor of English from Bakura University, and in our last webinar, he has also talked on particularly the impact of COVID-19 on literature, environment, and society. And he is an excellent speaker. Every moment of time, he has delivered so many types of lectures all over our India and almost everywhere. So now I'm inviting Dr. Subhadeep Paul for your speech, valuable speech. Dr. Subhadeep Paul, are you ready?
Yes, Shubha. Am I audible? Can you all hear me properly?
Audible.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I just hello Subhadeep sir. I just told you 1 minute before your speech. I want to say something about your career. Okay, Dr. Subhadeep Paul is currently the assistant professor at the University of English School of Literature, Language and Cultural Studies, Bakura University. He has formerly taught at the PG Department of English, Maulana Azad College, Kolkata, and was a guest faculty at the PG Department of English, Lady Brabourne College, Kolkata. He was a UGC Senior Research Fellow at Jadavpur University. His MPhil was on a re-evaluation of South Asian diasporic sensibility in Indian expatriate literature, and his PhD was a critique of East-West cultural polarization in Indian English fiction. He has co-edited Anxieties, Influences, and After, a collection of critical essays on post-colonialism and neo-colonialism, and published from Worldview Publisher in association with Wimbledon Press UK 2009. And he is also a kind of great poet, and his poetry are particularly Finite Sketches, Infinite Reduces, published in 2009. It's all good anthology of poems. And from it was published from Writers Workshop, Kolkata, and it received critical acclaim. He was co-director of a 2-year major research project 2016 to 18 entitled Discoursing the Homeless Elderly Tropes, Desires, and Containment, funded by ICSSR in collaboration with the University of Swesna, UK. His fictional and non-fictional writings have featured in Narrow Road Channel, Blue Minaret Literary Channel, Eastern Lamp Channel, and Four Quarters Magazine, Northeast Review, The Sunday Statesman, The Telegraph, Hindustan Times, and Louth Press, Edinburgh. So is an excellent orator also. So now it's a great privilege for us that we have with us Dr. Prabodip Paul again. So I am now inviting to start your lecture.
Thank you. Thank you once again for that introduction. I thank you all for inviting me once again. Today is the 132nd birth anniversary of Maulana Azad. I would like to thank Professor Dr. Nandan Bhattacharya, the Honorable Principal of Pashkura Bonamali College, Autonomous. I'd like to thank everyone from the Teachers Training Department of this wonderful college. And I would like to thank Professor Shivashish Jana in particular. He's a wonderful friend and colleague, so to say. So it's a real pleasure to, talk to you, to speak to you in this forum, which is entitled Educational Philosophy of Maulana Azad. Now, before I begin formally, let me tell you that this notice was served to me for a very short duration. I didn't have much time to, prepare for everything. So I'll not be very detailed today about the educational philosophy of Maulana Azad. I would like to stress on some of the important key highlights of his very vastly checkered, life and career. But at the same time, I would also kind of at Maulana Azad College in Kolkata for 6 years. So in that particular college, which is named after him, a very premier institution, we had understood what it meant to have a universal sense of learning, a universal participation in learning, in the learning processes, and that is what I would like to do because I have in mind the fact that there are a lot of teachers and B.Ed students and students related to education as a discipline, so to say. So, having said that, let me begin by saying that Maulana Abul Kalam Azad was a key figure in shaping the post-independence chapter of education policy, the Indian education policy. And he stressed on primarily, that is something I would keep repeating time and time again, that is basically education for all. And he himself had mentioned this and stressed on this in the All India Education Conference, which was held in 16th January, on 16th January 1948. And he also mentioned that it was the very birthright of the citizen to attain education, to gain education. So the idea is this, that just as, like we have sayings like Swaraj is my birthright. Similarly, we also now get to know that education is also a birthright, and it is the duty of the state to provide this to its citizens. It is the duty of the state to provide this to the citizens at the most minimum cost, or if possible, free, because education should be free. And these days we also know about the open access education policy. So knowledge should be open access. The barriers and the gateways, the gatekeepings towards education should be eliminated as much as possible, and there should be participation in a more holistic manner. So, without providing universal education to the incumbent, the citizen will not be capacitated to perform his or her duties properly. And this brings us to, understand the fact that there is a certain, historical background to the formulation of the National Education Day, let's call it the NED. And as we are celebrating the NED 2020 all over India, and possibly all over the world as well in different institutions, we look back in retrospect and nostalgia at how Maulana Azad had become the architect of the modern Indian education policy, as we call it. So it was sometime around 2008. It was in 2008 that the central government first decided that Maulana Azad's birthday would be framed as the National Education Day. In fact, it was the then President Pratibha Patil who had mentioned this in Vigyan Bhavan in New Delhi. And ever since 2008, we are participating and we are celebrating this day every year to mark the accomplishments that India has had in the educational sector. So we must, keep in mind the fact that there are various reasons why we call Maulana Azad the architect of the modern Indian education policy. In fact, it is because of him that material design could be provided to some of the most eminent institutions in the country, institutions of higher education, institutions of research, such as the IIT, the School of Planning and Architecture, the All India Council of Technical Education, the AICTE, the University Grants Commission, the UGC, and many other such bodies were established because thanks to Maulana Azad, our first education minister, who had roughly served from 1947 to 1958. Now, let me go down memory lane and talk a little bit about his life, his very celebrated life. Maulana Azad had, his family had relocated from Saudi Arabia and they had come to Calcutta, B.Ed in Calcutta, now Kolkata. And the main purpose, as I get to know, of this relocation was to provide a better educational, facility to Maulana. And what we understand by this better is something to be speculated upon. But I think there was this notion that he would receive an education which is more, all-inclusive, which is more scientific, which is more, accommodative in nature, instead of any particular, secluded education, which is often predicated on the lines of religion or specialization or caste or creed. So basically, this relocation was actually a benefit for independent India, because thanks to this, to this, we have had a very wonderful chapter of the post-independence education policy that India had adopted at that point of time. So, Maulana Azad was writing quite furiously in the pre-independent era, and around 1912, he was, writing. He was editing a weekly called the Al Hilal, and he was, repeatedly critiquing and criticizing the British education policy, the then British education policy. And of course, the government had banned that weekly, but this did not deter the spirit of Maulana. He again began writing, and this time it was another paper called the Al Baga, which was also banned. And as we all know, that during the British era, there were several, very infamous laws that were passed to curb, free expression. And censorship was very rife at that point of time. So the Defense of India Regulations, 1916, this was the notorious law with which these bans could be activated. But then that did not deter Maulana. He kept on writing. He was also he is also a very established and very prominent writer at that point of time. And I remember, Shashi Tharoor having recently tweeted that Maulana Azad is not just a visionary statesman, but he had, kind of defined him or described him as the peerless, somebody who stands no comparison. And at the same time, we also understand that the Ministry of Education has earmarked this occasion to strive towards, a more holistic, qualitative, and inclusive education. Those of you who are, researchers and students of education would know that inclusivity is a very, very important thing these days, and maybe you understand and read about inclusivity in more theoretical detail. But let me also tell you that inclusivity can be many different ways. It can be activated. It can be practicalized in many different ways. And I think whatever we are gaining today as a legacy is thanks to Maulana Azad's vision towards shaping the Indian education policy. So our Bharat Ratna, he was awarded the Bharat Ratna in 1992. Bharat Ratna Maulana Azad, he had always attended to the nuances of the cultural diversity of India's socio-cultural fabric. And thanks to him, I had already mentioned some of the very, famous educational bodies that he had, brought into life. But at the same time, there are other bodies like the Sangeet Natak Academy, the Sahitya Academy, the Lalit Kala Academy, which deserves, a mention because of, the understanding that Maulana Azad had, that these are areas that need attention, and so regulatory bodies should be there to promote, cultural and cultural exchange and cultural diversity exchanges all over the subcontinent. And Dr. Dr. Azad, and these apex bodies of education are reminders that we have come a long way, and we still need to go a long way to realize the dream that Maulana Azad had dreamt. And his fundamental aim was in creating balanced, impartial minds, because what are institutions if they do not create independent minds? What are institutions if they do not make us think? What are institutions if they do not make us innovate? And with this aim in mind, I think it was during a certain meeting lecture, I think the first meeting lecture of the Central Advisory Board of Education, the CABE, where Maulana Azad had mentioned that we need, balanced minds, we need impartial minds to lead the Indian society ahead. And other institutions down the line like the ICTR, the Sangeet Natak Academy, of course, I must mention separately IIT KGP, IIT Kharagpur, where I had the opportunity of going a few days back before the pandemic started. And these were the bodies which are directly related to his visionary zeal, to his very shaping design of giving India a shape for its education, especially higher education. And of course, there is the CSIR, the Council of Scientific and Educational Research, and many other such bodies where knowledge-based industry resources get a periodic boost time to time. So this year, the National Education Day, which was organized by IIT Bombay, was inaugurated by our Union Minister, our Union Education Minister, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal, where the blueprint was given that the National Education Day's interests were in alignment with the interests of the National Education Policy. Many of you are aware of this, that the NEP 2020, the National Education Policy of India 2020, is already in effect. More so in days to come, it will be materialized. And so, the very goal that NEP has, the Study in India project, the Stay in India project, the internationalization of education, according to the Honorable Education Minister, is in alignment with the national education design that post-independence India has had. However, I will also try to see this legacy, whether it is a continuum or whether it is a rupture. That is something that we will analyze down the line. But as it stands, that the NEP 2020 has also invited a lot of foreign investment, has invited foreign universities and institutions to set up their campuses in India. At least the top 100 world university campuses have already been given this green signal to come and set up their bases in India. So the very idea is this, that you do not now have to go abroad for an education which will be glamorized or which will be given an incentive. The international institutions would be coming to you, which is all a very good thing, and which is what the get together that we had at IIT Kharagpur told us, that institutions which were in India at this moment, like for instance, my university is a semi-urban, semi-rural university, but then it has several facilities which perhaps an urban university doesn't have. There is a lot of land, there is a lot of scope to build infrastructure. So the foreign universities are now looking forward to the Indian institutions so that they can send their scholars, and hopefully there will be some kind of student exchange and faculty exchange program as well. But as of now, they are wanting to come, and oftentimes the importance is not only on the urban institutions, because the urban metropolises have a lot of problems as well. There is the problem of cost escalation, there is the problem of pollution, there is the problem of space shortages, and so on and so forth. I'm not going into that. So wherever the institution, whether it can set up itself as a host base to accommodate foreign arrival, that is something which is being talked about. Now, much of this is good, theoretically as well, and to an extent practically as well. But I have also questions regarding the very affordability of higher education for most of the general Indian middle class populace. Because, as we often understand, that there are financial impediments to education. And for the common man, for the bourgeois person, for the lower middle class, student or researcher, grants and fellowships and endowments and scholarships are very important. So Maulana Azad had thought of this, that there should not only be regulatory bodies, there should also be bodies to sponsor, research activities. Um, I hope this thing is maintained in days to come. I hope that following 2021, whatever be the political, situation at the center and the state, both taken into consideration, importance is given to the fact that education should not become an elitist affair. Education should be there for all. I can, very well relate this to my own life, because had I not received the junior research fellowship and the senior research fellowship from the government after my NET, I might not have been able to complete my MPhil and my PhD. So you need, sustenance. You need economic sustenance to pursue research and education properly, especially given the third world, disadvantages that we often have and we often face in India. And we must understand that it is not always possible and practical for everyone to emigrate, or there is this contention about the brain drain that we often talk about. So a healthy balance between maybe globalization and privatization is something that we have to look up to. Maulana Saeed Abul Kalam Ghulam Muhyiddin Ahmad bin Khairuddin Al Husseini Azad stressed on free primary education also. And this is something that I think is very, very important. And West Bengal, for instance, is one of the most leading examples where, this the idea of free education, the idea of the midday meal scheme, this is very, very vital, because there are students who are coming from extremely impoverished backgrounds, and we need sustenance, we need incentives for them to come to school and to make education inclusive for them as well. Maulana Azad, based in making education a base for dreams to prosper, in his own words, be more dedicated to making solid achievements than in running after swift but synthetic happiness. So he believed that education was a base, on which future dreams could be planted. And we as teachers, we as professors, we as researchers, we have to often understand that research work, teaching is not always, not often, and definitely not always the most financially rewarding option that is offered to us. But we understand that this is a sort of a challenge that we take up. And so Maulana Azad was sensitive to this idea as well, because he mentioned that many people plant trees, but few of them get the fruit of it. So maybe the trees that you are planting today, the fruits of it will be had in your next generation or the generation after that. But that will be the legacy that you will leave behind for them. So we have to understand that it cannot always be just eat, drink, and be merry for ourselves all our lives. We have to understand that we have to leave behind as well something for future generations, okay, to come. And he also mentioned that climbing to the top needs strength. So whether you're climbing Everest, Mount Everest, or you are trying to climb up your career, you will need strength. You will need a proper education. Is very important. Not just education that fetches you a couple of degrees, but an education that gives you a specialization, an education that opens your mind. That is something that is very important. So for all this, I believe that Maulana Azad was definitely a very strong pioneer in the field of education. And And this is all the more because he believed that yes, words are very important. See, as teachers, as educators, we thrive on words. It is very important that we use the right words to describe the right things. But at the same time, it is also true that we must also be people of action. That our actions would be shaping the lives of the educational community in future. And when I talk about the educational community, I talk about it in an international sense because when I am, editing books, I have contributors from all over the world. I'm recently editing a book where I have contributors from the United States to Bangladesh. Almost a lot of countries are there. So if education can be very universal in that sense of the term, why cannot education be also all inclusive? Why should education be discriminatory? That was something that Maulana Azad had paid very special emphasis for. So Maulana Azad was a prolific writer. I'm not going into that chapter today, but let me very briefly mention that his most famous work is a work called India Wins Freedom. This is a book that I had read, but there are other works which I haven't read, but which I should mention, like Gubari, Khatib, Vichar Yatra, Khutbat-e-Azad, Tahrir-Azad. There are many works that he had written in a non-English format, but they're very notable works nonetheless. But I understand that Maulana Azad had mentioned that education was and I quote him, the problem of problems for Asia. So you see, he was not just talking about India, he was also talking about Asia as a whole. And quite interestingly, this particular milieu, this post-millennial milieu, is defined as the Asian century. This is known as the Asian century because after America and after Europe and after Brexit, it's perhaps the rise of Asia in many different ways. So Asia is giving a very hard time to the rest of the world, whether it be through the pandemic or whether it be through the rise of other superpowers. We will see more of Asian participation in world politics in days to come. So the idea is this: that how can the Asian century be a very wonderful century unless education is properly accessible, unless education becomes something more than pen and paper, unless education becomes something more than just the attainment of degrees of the job market. I'm not saying that is not important. I'm also mentioning that Maulana Azad was definitely sensitive to the fact that a formal education was also very necessary. But at the same time, he also understood that perhaps one of the most stumbling blocks towards the realization of India as a superpower down the line is mass illiteracy. So he was a proponent of adult literacy. He was a proponent of teacher education, and he believed that education serves diverse functions. Education is not just for the removal of illiteracy. It is also for development. It is also for democracy. It is also for internationalism, and it is also for secularism. Now, I'm not using that word in my lecture today, the word secular, because it has become a very debated word these days. There are camps that support it, there are camps that do not support it. But this much I can tell you that he definitely believes, Maulana Azad definitely believes that education should be holistic, education should be universal, education should be accessible to the general masses. And this is why I think there is a particular media source, I cannot cite it right at this moment, but which mentions that during 1947, the education budget in India was something around, let's put it grossly speaking, 2 crore rupees. And contrasted to that, you will find that in 1958, by today's parlance, that had risen to 30 crores. So that is a quantum leap. A lot of investment, a lot of a patronage, a lot of sponsorship, a lot of government grants was dedicated towards the educational budget. So unless you prioritize education like the way you are prioritizing business or industry or defense, education will be a lackluster thing. And unless that is proper, then I think that you're going to lag behind in the service sector. I think that the Maulana Azad Education Foundation gives a certain scholarship called the Maulana Scholarship to low-income group students. I think whose per capita income is something less than something like 1.5 to 2 lakhs or something like that. So that lower middle class families can also access this. These scholarships are examples of how through education India, the very culturally diverse nation, can actually attain a synthesis of cultures, by which we can actually materialize the unity in diversity dream, by which India can be a one nation instead of a fragment nation fighting amongst themselves. So at the same time, Maulana Azad has stressed that there are 5-year plans that the government takes up, and the 5-year plans should not only be about materializing new ambitions, but it should be also a stepping stone to understand what we have accomplished in the last 5 years. From where have we come to where? What has been our progressive journey? So Maulana Azad was a very self-analytical person. He was a very judicious person. He was a very scientifically tempered person. And of course, he had a very big soul. So I think that, that is the stuff that, we expect from any honorable education minister, that, that person should be sensitive to the needs of the masses, and also to the limitations of the masses. That is very important. This is all that I have to say today. And are we moving in the right direction? Are we moving in the right direction from 1947 till 2020? It has been a long way. We have celebrated long years, many years of independence. That is for you to decide. That is for the nation to decide. That is for all of us to speculate. So having said that, I thank you all. My salute goes out to Bharat Ratna Maulana Azad. And I would also end my lecture saying this, that as future teachers, as future researchers, this dream of our founding education minister, of our first education minister, should be always there in your mind, that there is definitely a lot of scope for research. There is a lot of scope for lecturing and talking on different topics. But at the same time, there is also the necessity for bringing everybody under a common cloud, for making education accessible to one and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Subhadeep Paul, sir, for your brilliant lecture and illuminating. And you touched so many areas that, and we for the first time started with Swaraj is my birthright. And with such issues, Swaraj is our really birthright. So we have to get the freedom and we have to get the free liberation. And you have also talked about National Education Day and what is the importance and utility. And you also told about the architect of our modern Indian policy, that how Kalam has really achieved it. And we can say that Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, really he is a versatile genius. He was a great scholar, and he was an Islamic theologian, an independent activist, and senior leader of the Indian National Congress. And he came in contact with Mahatma Gandhi, and jointly they fought for India's freedom movement. And he is also the first Minister of Education in the Indian government. And the Minister of Human Resource Development. And if we have a kind of get back about the whole idea about that national movement, particularly starting from 1757 to 1947, creates historical background and how our Maulana Abul Kalam Azad also just joined the kind of new ideologies in our freedom movement, and with the unification of Hindu and Muslim, that how he get a kind of new idea about our religiosity and also the unification of all the religions. And we can think about that Maulana Abul Kalam Azad really a kind of a great preacher of particularly religious outlook for the liberation of all the religiosity. And we can also see that how he as kind of philosopher, he's a kind of great poet, and also Sukhdev also said about particularly India wins freedom. So now we can also see that about his holistic education, about the universalism of education, and education should be open for all. And now today also we can see that how such thing is the great thing, that education should be for all and it should be open to all. And you told about so many ideologies. Really, we are just illuminated and we are enlightened by your brilliant lecture. Thank you, Subhadeep sir. And now it is open for our discussion. I think that one information I have to give you, that actually Dr. Rohun Hassan sir still engaged in another program, so he is very busy, and we are sorry to say that this lecture will not be delivered today. So let us we can get another program so that we can get this program again also. Now Dr. Rohun Hassan is still absent, and now it is open for discussion for all the students and other colleagues, that if there are any kind of suggestions and questions for Subhadeep sir. Hello. Now it is open for question. Students. Any teacher? Is there any kind of question for Subhadeep sir?
You, sir, for giving this opportunity. Sir, Twin Shina.
Yes, to him.
Sir, I have one question. Can I ask me the Subhadeep, sir? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I am the faculty of this department, and first of all, I want to give you my heartfelt thanks for this wonderful and this innovative lectures. Information about this about the Azad and its educational philosophy. Though I have one question, basically one query that about the Article 21A, that is the fundamental rights of education, which is came under 21A article. Azad emphasized on this the basic education policy, that the universal primary education, which is needful for all. But India get more times to gain it. Ajad said about this 1950, that's time. But India take action in this from the 90s, and it's maybe implemented in 2010 when the Right to Education Act came. Why India take lots of times to take this necessary actions for the universalization of basics or the primary education? And the Gandhi also said about this. So what's your opinion about this, sir?
Yes, Dwayne, that's a very wonderful observation and question from your side. Thank you very much for that. I would say this, that, like from my readings on Maulana Azad from different sources, whatever limited readings I have had, that there are many papers on him, there are many academic papers, there are many dissertations on him. I have gained this understanding that he even mentioned this in, India Wins Freedom, that one of the most debilitating effects of the post-independence era, one of the most challenging things was the rehabilitation of, the partition victims. Because you must understand that, as Shashi Tharoor often talks about this, that the British left India, which was at a certain point of time a booming economy, to one of the most impoverished nations in the world. They took literally everything away. They took the lifeblood of this nation. And so, there was a lot of priority which was at that point of time given to other issues like maybe industrialization, maybe rehabilitation of partition victims, maybe, just setting up the basis of these educational policies. But at the same time, I would also believe that there is also a center state, idea in this whole thing that Maulana Azad had himself mentioned that the national education policy at any point of time, like from 1947 to 2020, we have seen that there have been different policies. The national education policy is basically a theoretical blueprint, but whatever is given in the national education design will only be realized if the states cooperate. So let us not forget that India had a certain, federal structure since that point of time, a federalism which has now been increasingly challenged, and maybe there is a more unitarian control from the center. But India basically is a very federal, state where the states also have a lot of design, a lot of, role to play in activating these suggestions. And not all the states are same, there are some states which are terribly backward in that sense. Some states are more progressive, like Kerala is more progressive in literacy, but it has other problems. Because of that, there was a lot of backlash. That is very, very much true. And when we talk about the Indian freedom struggle, I did not talk much about Maulana Azad as a freedom fighter today, because the topic was not on the freedom struggle. The topic was on the educational philosophy and the educational, basically related to education in general. So I abstain from that. That might be a historical initiative I will take later. But I understand that Maulana Azad was always very sensitive about this idea that this is a very vital problem, because in a nation when you are first concerned with food, clothing, and shelter, and when that is in such a state of shambles, then of course the very idea that people will be educated, that people will you will convince them that education is important. At least the three R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, are important. Uh, that itself is a very daunting challenge. There has to be incentives for parents to send their kids to school. So there is a lot of difference between the pre-millennial and the post-millennial, or the pre-globalized and post-globalized India. We must understand that, and that is why I think a lot of time lag took place, and there are various political debates on this as well. Like there are books which mentions that maybe Subhash Chandra Bose, another very leading patriot, had this idea that if we formulate a military design on this country, and if we make it a strong military power in the first place, and then we lay stress on education, at least we educate our people for the first 10 years, and then we bring in the right of franchisee, or then we bring in a democratic structure through elections and everything, then maybe it would have been a far better place as far as the education sector is concerned. But as we all know, that did not take place. There are many theories to this, and of course, Shivashish has talked about Gandhi. We must also talk about Nehru in this connection, and we must understand that since post-independence, India took a political shape through the Nehruization of a lot of policies. So that was also a sort of filter where a lot of money was also having to be spent on partition rehabilitation, on building up a democratic base for India, preparing for elections, which also takes up a lot of money. So there was a lot of backlash for a lot of reasons, which I fully agree with your observation. But at the same time, better late than never. Currently in 2020, we are still if this is made more holistic and accessible to all the villages of India, then I think there will be more, participation from the student community and from the rural community as well. So let's be hopeful. That's all I can say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Is there any kind of observation now, still now? Any kind of queries from student group? Either student, you can also ask in Bengali. তোমরা বাংলায় প্রশ্ন জিজ্ঞেস করতে পারো, কোনো সমস্যা নাই, বলো তোমাদের কোনো প্রশ্ন আছে? Hello, any one of you? Any one of you? Okay, I think that there are not so much questions. I'm also reminded about, you have already said about the great thing about that, how in that particular moment of time freedom is the main thing. That's the reason all just supported freedom, and that is the reason they, for the first time, they just cut off all their prejudices and they called particularly for freedom of life. And that's the reason we can also, we are also reminded about Netaji's speech that battle for freedom, it does not matter who among us will live to see India free. It is enough that India shall be free, and we shall make our all to make her free. And Abul Kalam Azad is really wonderful kind of great scholar, and about that, what a kind of great theologian, a kind of religious teacher, a kind of with hopefully he participated in non-cooperation movement, Congress leader, Quit India movement, partition of India, and post-independence movement, legacy and influences, and so many issues related with our Abul Kalam Azad. And I think that his philosophy is related also with the liberation of our religiosity. And I am also reminded, I am very nostalgic, and I am also reminded about the great poem of Kazi Nazrul Islam, সাম্যবাদী. So I'm reciting one of the some lines that গাহি সাম্যের গান, যেখানে আসিয়া এক হয়ে গেছে সব বাধা ব্যবধান, যেখানে মিশেছে হিন্দু মুসলিম, হিন্দু বৌদ্ধ মুসলিম খ্রিস্টান, গাহি সাম্যের গান। কে তুমি? পার্সি, জৈন, ইহুদি, সাঁওতাল, ভিলগারো, কনফুসিয়াস, চারবাক চেলা, বলে যাও বলো আরো, বন্ধু যা খুশি হও, পেটে পিঠে কাঁধে মগজে যা খুশি পুঁথি ও কেতাব বও, কোরআন পুরাণ বেদ বেদান্ত বাইবেল ত্রিপিটক, জেন্দা বেস্তা গ্রন্থ সাহেব, পড়ে যাও যত শখ, কিন্তু কেন এ পণ্ডশ্রম, মগজে হানি শুল, দোকানে কেন এ দর কষাকষি, পথে ফোটে তাজা ফুল, তোমাতে রয়েছে সকল কেতাব, সকল কালের জ্ঞান, সকল শাস্ত্র খুঁজে পাবে সখা, খুলে দেখো নিজ প্রাণ, তোমাতে রয়েছে সকল ধর্ম, সকল যুগাবতার, তোমার হৃদয়ে বিশ্ব দেউল সকল দেবতার, কেন খুঁজে ফেরো দেবতা ঠাকুর মৃত পুঁথি কঙ্কালে, হাসিছেন তিনি অমৃত হিয়ার নিভৃত অন্তরালে, বন্ধু বলেনি ঝুট, এইখানে এসে লুটাইয়া পড়ে সকল রাজমুকুট, এই হৃদয়ে নীলাচল, কাশী মথুরা বৃন্দাবন, বুদ্ধ গয়ায় জেরুজালেমে মদিনা কাবা ভবন, মসজিদ এই মন্দির এই গির্জা এই হৃদয়, এইখানে বসেই সামোসা পেল সত্যের পরিচয়, এই রণভূমে বাঁশির কিশোর গাহিলেন মহাগীতা, এইখানে এই মাঠে হলো মেষের রাখাল নবীরা খোদার মিতা, এই হৃদয়ের ধ্যান গুয়া মাঝে বসিয়া সাক্ষ্য বনি, ত্যাজিল রাজ্য মানবের মহা বেদরান রাখ শুনি, এই কন্দরে আরব দুলাল সুহিনে শুনিতেন আহ্বান, এইখানে বসে গাহিলেন তিনি কোরআন সামগান, মিথ্যা শুনিনি ভাই, এই হৃদয়ের চেয়ে বড় কোনো মন্দির কাবা নাই। So I think that Abul Kalam Azad has really united all those divisions of our religious doctrines. I think that he is a real master artist in creating and unifying all those barriers, all those prejudices of religious ideologies. So thank you, Subodhi, for your excellent lecture. And I think that all the students, all the colleagues, and all our dignitaries, all distinguished guests, all are illuminated and particularly boosted by your enthusiastic and ever informative lecture. So thank you all. And now thank you, and you are really wonderful because you can assimilate so many areas, and you are a great orator in post-colonial ideologies, and I think that you are also a kind of voracious reader and every momentum reading so many types of books. So thank you all, and thank you all the participants. And I am just inviting our Tuhin sir for vote of thanks, and I will few words on Abul Kalam Azad, if that will be very fine also. And after that, you also give the vote of thanks. Thank you. Okay, Tuhin sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Sibasis, sir, for giving me the opportunity to give this vote of thanks in this special movement and request for some words about this special day. We must not for a movement forget it is the birthright of every individual to receive at least a basic education, without which he cannot discharge his duties as a citizen, said by Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. As the first education minister of independence India 1947 to 58, Maulana Azad focused on some goals to strengthen the basic infrastructure of education in the country. Azad emphasized on the establishment of a national education system with universalization of primary education, that is, the free and compulsory education for all the children up to the age of 14. At the time of independence, when constitutions came, it was under directive principle of state policy, which is Article number 45, and all we know that now it is considered as a fundamental right under the Article of 21A. So now education considered as a fundamental rights, which is a dream of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. Azad also emphasized on education for girls, for the rural poor, to promote adult literacy. Since independence, government has taken many initiatives as per recommendation of different committees and commissions. We all know about the some of the West Bengal, some of the famous policy about the girls, that is the Konnas, which is famous in the all over the world. And he also strengthening the secondary education and the vocational training. At the time, National Education Policy 2020 emphasized on the national, this times on vocationalization of education from the class 6, and it is mandatory. Ajat also include the name in some establishment, like establishment of the Indian Institute of Technology as a landmark in the progress of higher technological education and research in the country. The development of the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and the Faculty of Technology, Delhi University. At the same time, setting up the Central Institute of Education, Delhi. Now, later became the Department of Education, University of Delhi. Now it is as a research center for solving the new educational problems of the country. And at the same time, the foundation of University Grant Commission is the remarkable work of Azad as an important institution to supervise and advance the higher education in the nation. In the commemoration of his contribution and remarkable working in the field of education, Maulana Azad's birthday, that is the 11th day of November, is celebrated every year as a National Education Day since 2008. In that day, uh, all over the India, different organizations like the technical organization, vocational organization, higher education organization, organize different types of programs like seminars, symposium, essay writing, and some organization, some rallies and the workshop for different banners. And the main motto of this all this program is the education for all. That's dream of the Acha. That's the universalization of basic or the primary education. And there is no better way to honor this greater human being and a scholar who, in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, as the emperor of learning, counting him as a person of the caliber of Plato, Aristotle, and the Pythagoras. At this day of the birthday of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, we also try to organize a small types of webinar with his educational philosophy. And Professor Paul already said about the various information about his career, about his view on the education. We have now reached at the climax stage of this webinar on educational philosophy of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. First of all, I would like to thank our Honorable Principal Sir, Professor Dr. Nandan Bhattacharya. This webinar would not have been possible without his encouragement and cooperation. Our entire PVC family is just like a solar system, from the middle of which our Principal Sir always encourages us for self as well as institutional development. Secondly, I would like to thank our IQC coordinator, Sir Dr. Nirmal Das. Sir has fully cooperated with us to make this event a success from the very beginning. I also like to thank Dr. Tuhin Kumar Kaur, head of our department and member secretary of Academic Council, for his unwavering support. I would also like to thank Dr. Nirmal Kumar Mahapat, sir, controller of examination, for his cooperation and dedicated support. I would like to thank Dr. Baksa Ghosh for his dedicated support and cooperation. It is our misfortune that sir is not present at this program for his busy schedule. I also like to thank Dr. Shokti Ranjan Mishra, professor of physical education and post-science department, for his dedicated support and cooperation. The technical session was started with Dr. Shubhati Pal, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Bankura University, Bankura, West Bengal. Sir talks on the life and the role of and the view of Azad in educational sector. So started with this view that the Azad is the key factors in the education in the post-independence India. Sir talk about the Azad's life, his educational view, and sir also talk about that, like Swaraj, education is also a birthright, and now it is under 21, Article 21A. Sir talk about the open access education for all. Basically, it is the education for all system. That is the universalization of primary education. Sir also talk about the life of Azad, and sir talks about that Azad's family came from Calcutta for his education. At that time, it's a remarkable opportunity for Azad. That for the education, his family came from Saudi Arabia to Calcutta, and now it's Kolkata. And I think this thinking of his parents and his family about the education will influence him. And throughout his life, we are fortunate that Azad in India, and Azad give his view and his idea and his work on education, and we are flooded by them, by his work. I want to give my heartful thanks, Professor Pal, for his remarkable, informative lecture, and we are flooded by them. And thank you, sir. Sir already talk on in the previous webinar. Sir also talk his various lectures, and we are flooded by that time. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. At the last but not least, I would like to thank all the participants, come the students. We would never have been able to make this event a success without their patience and cooperation. I would like to thank all the members of Teachers Training family, started with Mr. Sivasis Jana, Srimati Bijoli De, Srimati Anusri Dotto, Srimati Shukla, Srimati Mondira Pal, Mr. Shankar Sarkar, Dr. Shilpa Bhattacharya, Mr. Bangsibadan Sahu, Mr. Ashish Kumar Adok, Mr. Shubhendu Shekhar Bhakta, Srimati Debolina Banerjee Das, and Mr. Abhijit Parmon. At the same time, I would like to thank to Tapura, Shubhendu Kaji, and Pradyuta. I would like to thank Dr. Raju Singh for his support and advice in technical arena. I want to conclude my speech with this note of great poet, scholar, nationalist Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, that education imparted heart can bring revolution in the society. Once again, thanks to all. Thank you very much. Over to Ashish, sir.
Thank you, Tuhin, for your vote of thanks. Now I am inviting our Onulekha and Moitri for the valedictory song. Moitri or Onulekha, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, seamless.
চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান, মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান। চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান, মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান। বীর দর্পে পৌরুষ গর্বে সাদ রে সাদ সবে দেশের কল্যাণ, মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান। চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান, মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান। পুত্র ভিন্ন মাতৃদৈন কে করে মোচন, পুত্র ভিন্ন মাতৃদৈন কে করে মোচন। উঠো জাগো সবে বলো মাগো, তব পদে সপিনু পরাণ সবে ভারত সন্তান, মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান। চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান, মাতৃভূমি এক তন্ত্রে করতব, এক মন্ত্রে জপ। শিক্ষা দীক্ষা লক্ষ্য মুখ্য এক, এক সুরে গাও সবে গান। দেশ দেশান্তে যাও রে আনতে নব নব জ্ঞান। দেশ দেশান্তে যাও রে আনতে নব নব জ্ঞান। নব ভাবে নবোৎসাহে মাতো, উঠাও রে নবতর তান সবে ভারত সন্তান। মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান, চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান। মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান, লোকরঞ্জন লোকগঞ্জন না করি দৃক্পাত। যাহা শুভ যাহা ধ্রুব ন্যায়, তাহাতে জীবন করদান। দলাদলি সব ভুলি হিন্দু মুসলমান। দলাদলি সব ভুলি হিন্দু মুসলমান। এক পথে একসাথে চলো, উড়াইয়া একতা নিশান সবে ভারত সন্তান। মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান, চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান। মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান, চল রে চল সবে ভারত সন্তান। মাতৃভূমি করে আহ্বান। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Thank you, Onlekha, for your valedictory song. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevabhi Sishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you all of you, thank you a lot. So with this mantra we are concluding our program. Thank you all, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.